Welcome to the Steady On Stronger Together podcast. I am your host, Angie Bauman. Well, hey friends, is how my guest today, Kathi Lipp, often begins her podcasts and shout outs to the communities she serves. Kathi is a ministry mentor of mine. I also consider a friend, although our friendship is undoubtedly a little one-sided. I've spent a lot of time listening to her and learning from her, and her voice and ministry approach are quite familiar to me. I appreciate her expertise in teaching in the world of Christian communication, which is why I was so delighted to be able to spend this one-on-one time with her and talk about a different area of her expertise, clutter. Kathi's Clutter-Free Academy is a place so many people have found encouragement and support to tackle the things in their lives that overwhelm them. Her 15-minute decluttering method has become understood lingo in the Bauman house because her practical advice inspires transformation through small steps. I have no doubt that you will love Kathi as much as I do. Let's listen in. Hello, Steady On community, and welcome to this Stronger Together conversation. I'm Angie Bauman, and I am joined today by my mentor, Kathi Lipp. Kathi, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Welcome to the Steady On community.
Angie, I'm thrilled. Thank you so much for having me on.
Kathi is the author of over 20 books. She is a speaker, she is a podcaster, and she is a mentor to me and so many others with her writing at the Red House, retreats, and podcasts. And did I see that you're hoping to open up your retreats again in 2022? Is that true?
We are actually possibly going to do a couple this fall.
Oh,
so we want to make, we're trying to figure out all the safety issues and being cool and everything like that. But with my husband just getting his second vaccine, we feel like, okay, this might be the time. So we're very, very excited. There's small groups, so it's much easier to kind of maintain than like doing a big conference or something like that. But we're praying through it and we're pursuing it.
I don't know about you, but isn't it crazy? Some of the little things, not that the retreats are little, but just some of the little things that we were like, I didn't know I'd be so grateful for this when it came back into my life, right?
You know what? It was so funny. My daughter, who works for Apple and isn't like, doing our kind of ministry or anything like that, posted the other day on Facebook. She goes, I started to write things down in a calendar. And I'm sure for her, it was on her phone, her Apple phone. But she goes, I just forgot what that felt like because all she's done is gone to work.
Yes.
For the, and gone to work behind a computer screen. And just to be, we have plans. Like it feels so wild, and I still don't want to go out too much, not because of COVID, because I feel safe now, but also I've loved having time that hasn't been 100% filled. And so I need to reserve some of that.
I hear you completely. When you were saying that, it reminded me of a season of my life about 11 years ago. I was in a head-on car crash and I was really badly injured. I was in rehab for 9 months. I couldn't take care of myself. And I share pieces of that story with the community from time to time because it was a really difficult season for me. And I learned so much about myself and God. But one of the things that I did is I tried to be intentional about gratitude in the little things. That's what I heard you saying about your daughter, right? Like I kept this little journal, and at first I couldn't even write myself because my body was broken, but I'd have somebody write things down like, today I brushed my own teeth, right? Today I did this or that. And it was just that sort of intentionality of how grateful I am for those little things that you don't think about, but when they're gone from your life, all you want back is the normalcy, really.
Yes. And we're all going to learn that over the next several months.
I hope so, because I think it's good for us. I think that reminder is good for us. Absolutely. So Kathi does that. She does mentoring, but she also runs a Clutter-Free Academy, and she talks a lot about clutter. And we're going to talk a little bit about clutter today because I have really appreciated your teaching through Clutter-Free Academy. So that's where we're kind of going to go today. Okay. But I think that these are my words. I would say that Kathi Lipp is passionate about motivating people to move forward. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree. And let me put on and.
Absolutely.
Or with the smallest steps possible.
I love that. And that's kind of where we're going to start, actually, because you teach in your Clutter-Free community about the importance of tackling big projects in small steps. And so I would like for you to just tell us the basics, because if somebody's never heard of this
Yeah.
before, why 15 minutes? What's your 15-minute approach? Where'd that come from? And why do you believe in it the way you do?
So the approach is you set a timer for 15 minutes. And my daughter would laugh at me because when I would do it, I'd pantomime like turning a timer. And she's like, Mom, nobody uses those timers anymore. I'm like, well, my people do. But yes, setting it on
I have one of those.
Exactly. Setting it on your oven, your phone, wherever it may be. And then, because here's the thing, I feel that decluttering and writing, like these are the things I teach on, a lot of decisions have to be made. And the reason that people don't get started with their writing or don't get started with their decluttering is because of decision fatigue. Like, we can make really hard decisions for about 15 minutes when we're decluttering. And then after that, we're just like, I'm just going to keep it because I can't decide. Do I donate it? Do I trash it? Do I give it to my great Aunt Maple? What do I do with it? But for 15 minutes a day, you can make really hard decisions in one area of your life. And you can also make really hard decisions in a different area of your life. But if I said, I want you to declutter for an hour and a half, that's too many hard decisions in one area of your life. So I do call it, circuit training. Like, okay, I'm going to go do 15 minutes of decluttering. Okay, now I'm going to do 15 minutes of bill paying because I can make hard decisions over here. Now I'm going to do 15 minutes of email because I can make but to say, okay, I'm going to spend the next 4 hours decluttering my kitchen is like the worst sentence in the English language.
Don't make me.
Yeah, don't make me. But for 15 minutes, I can take one drawer in my kitchen and turn it into a place of peace. And now for the next month, every time I go there, I can open up that drawer and just feel good about it.
Yeah,
and that's what I want for people.
I love that so much. And I don't know if you know this, but the Lord really placed on my heart for the season of Lent that we've been through not too long ago to participate in your 15 minutes a day every day. That was my Lenten commitment, if you will.
Okay.
And I was curious. It really didn't seem like a legitimate Lenten kind of thing to do, but it was what the Lord put on my heart. So I'm like, okay, I'll play, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that he really taught me, first of all, I got rid of so many things. I think I wanted to total it up for you. It was over 400 items that I even gave away or threw away. Like, it was crazy. And I'm not even that, I don't think, although we all are, I'm not even that big of a clutter bud, but it's crazy how much stuff you find when you start doing something like that every day. But there was something about it. I struggle with perfectionism. This is a real stumbling block for me. And so one of the things that the Lord really taught me as I was doing it is that, like, you're not going to get it all done today, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be perfect today. You're going to come back the next day. You're going to work on it a little bit more. Sometimes this project is too big for you and you're going to have to tackle it a little bit, like, in pieces. You may not get through your whole closet today, and it was a spiritual lesson that God really reinforced in my life.
Yes, I really believe anytime we challenge ourselves to do something that is hard and we are relying on God, that can be our call to the Lenten season.
Yes.
Because it's going to bring up stuff in you that it's easy to not bring up the rest of the year. And for me, like right now, I'm really working on some eating habits. And it's interesting. Once I get one of the eating habits down, it's like, okay, I don't miss that so much anymore. But your stuff you have to deal with every single day. And I know that for a lot of people, and people don't believe me, but it really is true. So many cluttery people are really perfectionists. And if I can't do the whole closet, I'm not going to start. And if I can't do the whole house, I'm not going to start. And I just want to say, what I'm asking you to do is find places of peace in your house. And we know that clutter messes, especially with women's cortisol levels, and it affects their happiness, its sense of peace, all of that. And so if we can, and decluttering does so much, it gets stuff into the hands of people who can use it. It clears out space for us to be able to think and process. it really does elevate our joy levels, and it helps us to be able to find the things that we actually need to do the things that we're supposed to do. So it's like this beautiful multi-purpose discipline. But let's not forget, it is a discipline. It's a discipline like prayer. It's a discipline like exercise or eating healthy. It is a discipline, and it takes practice. And if we're all or nothing people, we've skipped the practice part. And so much of what we do to really feed our souls is a practice.
I think for me too, it makes me ask the question, why? Why don't you want to look in that cedar chest? Like, really, what's kind of under that? That because there's like, maybe there's painful memories in there, or there's this, like, I lack grace for myself and I should have done this. Ugh, this is so gross. I should have done this a long time ago. And because I didn't, I'm not good. And so why look at it now? I mean, just all those things that can really get in the way of what you're that peace, that joy in our own space.
Isn't it crazy that Satan can use our stuff to affect who we are in Christ?
Absolutely.
Like, that's just ridiculous, but it's true. And you look at the New Testament and all the crazy things that we argue over as believers, Angie, like, this person's doing the right thing, this person isn't, you should believe in this, you shouldn't believe in this. The number one thing that Jesus talked about was money and stuff. Like, he knew that was what was going to trip us up. And so we can spend all the time in the world arguing about all these issues that Jesus never talked about, but we're going to ignore our own stuff. It almost makes me angry. And then I have to realize, okay, Kathi, that's not God's intent either. But that we choose not to look at the things that are piercing our hearts.
It seems benign, I think, our stuff, because we have the sin and the condemnation, if you will. Let's put it that way. Because I've heard you talk about how clutter can be related to fear and guilt and shame. And those are things I talk about all the time. Because one of the things I say is, like, shame cannot grow when it is brought to the light. I picked that up from Brene Brown a long time ago, and I love it. I just cling on to it, right? And isn't that true with our I mean, I think you can say the same with our clutter. You drag that stuff out, and I don't know, for me anyway, it begins to lose its power, where you're like, actually, I don't have to keep you, or actually I can make this hard decision to let it go. Mm-hmm.
Well, so the questions we don't want to ask ourselves are, why did I buy this in the first place? And why am I having a hard time letting it go? I bought this in the first place. I bought these shoes because I wanted to be somebody I'm not. I wanted to be the girl who wears the red high heels. I wanted to be the girl who thinks she hikes, but I bought all the accoutrement, but I don't actually use it.
Yeah.
And why am I holding on to it? Fear. Well, what if I need it someday? Maybe I will take up parachuting. You don't know. You don't judge me. You don't know me. Guilt. But so-and-so gave it to me. And if I give it away, I'm dishonoring that relationship. Where it's easier to make our relationship about things than it is about emotions and honor. And then shame. I spent so much money on it, so I have to keep it for 20 years, even if I don't use it. So I forget about the value.
My husband and I give ourselves permission with the money thing, because if we're struggling with that, sometimes one will say to the other, because we both know this, but when you're feeling it, you can't know it, and we'll say the money is gone, whether we keep it or give it away or whatever, the money is still gone. Right. And so, right now it's taking up space.
For every minute that it's in your house and not being used, there is zero value. There is zero value to that thing. And in fact, it's probably costing you, if you figure out the square footage in your house and what that is costing you to store, thinking about that. But as soon as you give it to somebody who will use it, you've restored its value.
Like you're giving a gift to the thing, if you will, and the person,
yes,
and yourself.
Exactly. You're reclaiming that lost space. Because for some reason, we don't think that our space costs us, but we are paying rent or mortgage on that every single month. And so to be able to say, no, I'm reclaiming that value, and you're giving that item value, and you're giving something of value to a person if they want it. This does not count if you're giving it to your kids and they don't want it.
Excellent point. Yes.
Yeah.
Here's a tote of things I thought you might like to have.
No,
Or as a pastor, I will say anything related to Jesus that you don't want doesn't mean you need to give it to the church. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, no,
We call that junk for Jesus. We don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
I think it's a trust issue too, right? I've heard you say that before too, right? But sometimes I think between us and God, it can be a trust issue of maybe I need to hang on to these things because you won't take care of me if I don't have them. Would you say, is that fair?
Right. There's like two trust issues I see. So yeah. I need to hang on to that expired can of sardines because what if I lose my job? That may be the only thing I have to eat. That's not true. That's not true. If we've learned anything through COVID, horrible things can happen to people who never thought they would. And there are going to be resources for you. And the other trust thing is people want to give their items to somebody that they know will use them right. And that's a control issue. And so could you just give that to a charity and trust that God will put it in the right hands? I think we can do that.
Talk to us a few minutes about we've been talking about some benefits, but talk to us about, like, in your life, I know your past is that your father was a hoarder, and then you got to a point in your life where you were thinking, maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, my stuff is kind of getting bigger than I can handle. Yeah, is that fair? I
call myself a hoarder because a hoarder is a clinical diagnosis. But let's say there were some of the things that happened to hoarders that were happening to me. Like I wouldn't want people in my house. I wouldn't want people touching my stuff. I was assigning value to things that didn't have value, so I would not call myself a hoarder. My dad definitely was, though. And so, yeah, so my life has, I don't want to prejudge your question. So what is your question?
No, I was just going to ask you about some of the benefits, like maybe that process, right? Like the awareness of it and that process, because I'm confident that didn't turn around overnight. And and the benefit of, because you have so much benefit in your life from the changes you've made, so much so that the overflow is helping other people make changes too. So I wondered if you just kind of talk around any of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when there were a couple of pivotal points in my life, and I've never really talked about this. You're such a good interviewer, Angie.
Oh, well, thank you.
So one of the pivotal points was my divorce. And in that divorce, my parents had just built a house in Mather, California, and where I sit right now. And my kids and I needed to go live with my parents. And, they built this huge house, but they were expecting to just build it for them and their cats. They were not expecting their daughter and grandkids to come live with them. So we ended up taking two of the rooms. My daughter and I shared a room, and my son had his own room. We ended up taking two of those rooms, but we could not bring our stuff with us. So I got, a storage locker, a very small one. And then but I gave away most of our possessions. And because we couldn't do it. It was literally not possible. So I got a tiny storage unit, and I eventually, just for moving, and got that cleared out. So we were living here with my parents, very scaled down, not a lot of stuff. And then, Roger and I got engaged, and we started to look for a house back in San Jose, where I was from. And because his house was way too small. It was 1,400 square feet. There were 6 of us. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Guess what? There was nothing we could afford that was bigger than that. So we ended up moving all of us into a 1,400 square foot house. And that's when it's like, okay, if we want this family to work, we have to make some huge changes. So one of the huge changes was his daughter said, I'm out of here.
Let me help you just a little bit.
Yes. So the boys shared a room, and Kimberly had a room, and Roger and I had a room, and we had to figure out how to get most of the stuff out of the house so that we could all. And so that was really the change, to realize that us building a family was more important than whatever stuff we had there. And we had to constantly keep moving it out, moving it out. And now it has changed so much that we got to a point where we bought a second home, not because we're rich folks, but what we were doing was we were living in one home and Airbnb the other home. So we would live for 3 months in San Jose and then 3 months in Somerset and back and forth. And the most clutter-free you will ever have to be in your life is when you're renting out your house to other people.
I would think so.
Yeah. So, and doing it every 3 months, it was nutso. And, but it taught us that we could do it. And so we got to a point where not only were we living clutter-free, but we were able to give our house to somebody when the campfire happened in Northern California, and we could have people come live with us. And now we live full time in Somerset, California, kind of near Lake Tahoe. And we have people who this July will be coming for a retreat at our house. And so we've had to learn, how do you live clutter-free and invite people into your house on a regular basis in order to do this? So to look at my life 20 years ago and look at my life now, you would not recognize them next to each other.
I so appreciate you sharing that progression with us, because I think the Overwhelm, which is I'm just going to plug this right now, the title of one of Kathy's books, co-written with Sherry Gregory. But I think the Overwhelm for us can come from clutter or any other kind of thing that's cluttered, this like sense of overwhelm, whatever's stealing our joy, right?
Yeah.
And the Lord uses our circumstances to help free us from that. But it's a process, and we have to trust the process. So I heard you say several things when this happened. I just lift that up as encouragement, because sometimes the problem seems very big, but the Lord will continue to say, here's our 15 minutes today, right? Here's our 15 minutes today. And over time, a huge transformation can happen.
Well, and let me be clear, like my tendency is still towards clutter. Like I look at the pictures of when we bought this house from the people who lived here, and we bought it from somebody who grew up, she was Danish, very austere. It was a beautiful home, don't get me wrong, but definitely a less cluttery effect. Like I'm more of a maximalist than a minimalist, that's for sure. So I still fight this, but I also know, each of my rooms is within 20 minutes of being in a place of peace. Mm-hmm. So I just have to stay on top of things, and it is possible, but we're also making this house ours, and it's a mountain cabin. It's very different than where we lived in San Jose. So we are still bringing things into our house. So it is on me in a big way to make sure that things leave our house too.
It's what motivates you, right? Any of us, are we motivated to keep up, to know ourselves and know our tendencies, to keep ourselves in check, if you will, sort of let the Holy Spirit do that for us, and then respond to that and say, I need to spend 20 minutes in here because over the last week or so, I've kind of let this go and I'm falling back into some old tendencies, and I don't want to do that.
And I don't want anybody to feel guilty if they're feeling cluttered right now. I mean, we all have life circumstances. Angie, as you know, this year we kicked off this big writing program. And within, I think, 3 weeks of doing that, my husband ends up in the hospital. And it's COVID. I can't go be with him. We live an hour and a half from the hospital. Like my whole life was driving back and forth and doing the thing and taking care of the chickens and and in the middle of winter where we could possibly get snowed in, it was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Let's just say my house was not Martha Stewart ready. But you know what? I knew I could get back to that, but I also knew it was for a time and a season. And so, please give yourself grace. Yes. And if you're in that place of like, you are just buried with stuff, it's free. So I don't mind. I don't feel bad for plugging it. Go to our Facebook group, Clutter Free Academy. Just type in Clutter Free Academy, and it's going to ask you questions about why we should let you in. Just say, I was on Steady On podcast and Kathy told me I could come in, and we'll do it, because It's the kindest corner of the internet. It's absolutely free, and you will be so encouraged to start living the life that God wants you to live.
It is. It's a very non-judgment place to start for sure. So, and I will link all of that, Kathy's information, her Facebook group, all that stuff will be linked in today's show notes so that you can check that out and get there. So, Kathy, before I let you go, I love to close on this question. I always pose it, and it is just, it's different, but I love to share resources. And we get to know you this way a little bit more. What are you, if anything, right now, what's in your life right now that you're watching, listening to, reading, studying, anything goes? What's keeping you joyful and connected to God right now? Anything?
Okay. This is going to be the weirdest answer you've ever had.
Okay. I'm writing it down.
Oh,
I've had some weird ones.
Okay. I can't even, like, one of the words I can't even say. Okay. So let me just preface this, Angie.
I need to put a rating on the episode. Oh no.
No. I will not say the word. I am not somebody who swears, but enough people recommended this book that I said, okay, I'm going to go listen to it. So here's the thing. If swearing offends you, do not pick up this book. But she's never doing it in an angry way. Okay. It's called Healthy as F. And she uses that word quite liberally. But I am on a big journey right now. And there's so many parallels between healthy eating and decluttering. It's just not even funny. Like, I could write a book on it. Not that I'm an expert on the healthy part, but I've been working really hard over the past several months. I've lost about 25 pounds. I'm continuing to work on this. It's the biggest challenge of my life. And her philosophy helps me so much to not be overwhelmed, because I get very easily overwhelmed by clutter, by the need to eat healthy, that kind of thing. So if you don't want to link it, I will not be offended, but I wanted to be truthful with you.
Absolutely. It's helping you right now. That's what I ask.
It seriously is helping me. The other book I'm reading is called Clockwork. And it's by the same guy who wrote Profit First, which literally changed my ministry and my business. Profit First made us a profitable business. And so if you're in business, I recommend Profit First. And I'm reading Clockwork right now, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's awesome. Thank you for, pointing us that direction. No, I think that's hilarious. And I think the reason that there's so many similarities for you between the healthy eating and the clutter is because both can be very overwhelming when you have some, and you're like, why try? I can't make it different today. So why try?
You know, the research I read really says that for people who are overweight, the chances of you getting to a place where you're not overweight are terrible.
Really?
And here's the thing, Angie. Like, my mom, the weight issue comes from my mom's side of the family. My grandmother was skinny as a bean. My grandfather was skinny as a bean. My mom was not. My mom was adopted. My mom's biological parents were both big people, but my mom lived with very small people and still had the issue. I still have the issue. It is something that I work on every single day, but God uses it as a shortcut for people to feel safe with me. And so I still want to change it, because here's the thing. They don't think I'll judge them. They don't think that I will look down on them. They know, I walk into a room and you can see my struggle. Clutter, we get to hide from people. But here's the thing. When I talk about it with people, they understand that they're not the only one. Everybody thinks they're the only person with clutter. Then why do statistics show that 66 people feel like it's one of the 5 biggest issues in their life? And weight is the other one for people, so this is something we're all dealing with. Not a lot of people are talking about it in healthy and gentle ways. And that's what we want to do in Clutter Free. That's why we want to be a resource for people.
It is a message of hope. And I love that. It is
Yeah.
a message of hope. You don't have to do this all today. And there's community around you, and there's grace here for you to have. And I'm so grateful, Kathi, for your time today. I'm so grateful for your generosity, both just with your work and your skills, but also your story. Thank you so much for being willing to, people know that they're safe with you because you share yourself in a real way. And we just really appreciate you and the work that you're putting out into the world. And again, just really appreciate your time with us today.
Angie, I just appreciate what you're doing here. And
Thank you.
I love that you lead this community with such grace.
Thank you. We will sign off for now. And until next time, peace. So, do you feel like cleaning out that junk drawer or filing cabinet now? We've all been there, and we're all in this together. And I want to thank Kathi Lipp for reminding us that yes, we can do hard things. I've linked the places that you can connect with Kathi and her work in today's show notes. And yes, her recommended book with an expletive in the title is listed there too. Please don't send me any hate email about it, guys. It'll just add more clutter to my inbox. And I can assure you, if Kathi is sharing it with us, she wholeheartedly appreciates the message inside. And I encourage you to check out the bonus material that goes along with this episode, where I share some of the Steady On community's responses to what keeps them from tackling their clutter. And also, I'll talk about one place the Bible addresses overwhelm. Thank you so much for listening. I pray that wherever your day takes you, you are walking in the confident knowledge that you are a beloved, cherished child of God. Peace.